Hello, everyone, and welcome back to OneSoccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, and I am joined by my colleague, Alex Gonge-Ruzic. And Alex, with the FIFA Women's World Cup kicking off in only a couple days, today we are talking tactics, and we are going to focus on the front four because I think that's the biggest question mark around this side. We know they can defend. We know a lot of the positions and the places in this squad, but I think the front four is somewhat up for debate, so let's start there.
Absolutely. It's going to be the big question for Canada heading into the World Cup because it's certainly at the back they're sorted. I mean, Kaylin Sheridan among the best goalkeepers in the world, so that's a bit of a no-brainer. At the back, Kadisha Buchanan, Vanessa Gilles, that's a CB partnership that can rival anyone in the world. Ashley Lawrence, one of the best fullbacks in the world. Jade Riviere likely to start alongside her. That's an up-and-comer. That forms just a solid back five. And then from there, I mean, you have an idea that Jessie Fleming and Julia Gross are going to play in midfield. And then after that, it's it's completely open. Is it who's going to play underneath them maybe as a six? Might Grosso drop into a double pivot? Will Fleming play the 10? Will Grosso and Fleming play as double eights? Who's going to be in that front three? It's really the big question for Canada. It's one that's probably, kept Bev Priestman up over the last few weeks with this camp as she figures out her best combinations in the attacking phase of the field.
So I like where you started there, and I'm going to pick up with Christine Sinclair, the GOAT of Canadian soccer. Let's be honest, the most international goals ever by a player. She is 40 years old, Alex, and it kind of seems that this World Cup will be a little bit different from her, taking a different role. So let's just assume she does, and maybe she is that super sub. I want to get your opinion on it. But if she is that super sub, is the obvious choice to replace her in that kind of 10 position under the front three, Jessie Fleming?
Absolutely. I think in terms of Sinclair, it's a bit of twofold. I think because she still shows value as a starter. I think the Portland, she still starts regularly for a very good Portland Thorns team, who won the, NWSL championship last year. Like Sinclair, obviously, can provide value on a winning team. But for the Thorns, her role there is about a 60, 70-minute player in midfield. So for Canada, you could almost wonder, might it be worth looking at that? Because while she's played that role for the Thorns for a couple of years now, for Canada, she's still usually primarily come in. Usually when she's starting, it's in the front line in some capacity. So if anything, I feel like maybe a shift to midfield could be considered for Sinclair because we haven't seen a combination like that. Or I think if you're playing her in the attack, maybe you use her as a sub or bring her in as a midfield sub if you need a goal. So it's something where Sinclair's role is definitely changing. I think we're seeing Priestman use her more as that kind of 60 to start, 30 to come off the bench kind of player. But I think maybe this tournament really should be one where we see her play a little deeper because there's only 5 natural midfilders on this squad, and having Sinclair drop in as a sixth, I think would be a good asset. She shows it with the Thorns. Her ball progression, her ability to play between the lines, ability to play in the space is huge. And I think that's something where Canada could maybe use a bit of that. And it could be something where her and Fleming play off each other as tens or something similar.
What really excites me is the idea of seeing Jessie Fleming play a little bit further up the pitch. Now, we know how good of a player she has been for Canada, but I think just unleashing her a little bit, giving her that little bit more freedom to go up. She's such a creative player. I think this could be a massive tournament for her. And if she does go into that role, she's got to play with the front three. Now, let's just, again, assume that it is Jessie playing in that number 10. So, Alex, what type of front three do you think would complement her skills the most?
Yeah, well, the thing about Jessie Fleming that just makes her special is that she can play a pass, no doubt. Her weight of pass is incredible, but she's also just so incredible late runs, box arriving, just showing up at the edge of the box. She scored a few goals for Chelsea for Canada that way, where she plays it forward, makes a run in the box. She scored a goal like that against Nigeria, funnily enough, last year. So that if you can get the most out of her in that role, I think it that's something where Deanne Rose, Nichelle Prince, they're more natural. Certainly Rose are more natural creative wingers. Prince does like to get inside and shoot a bit more. Rose as well. I think that's someone where for Jessie Fleming, she's going to be missing Janine Becky in that regard. But someone like Lacasse and her creativity, maybe if you play her a bit on the left, and get her just to cut inside and play those sorts of cutbacks to Fleming. Maybe Lacasse on the left and a Deanne Rose on the right could be natural options, because I think Nichelle Prince on the left, she loves to cut in and shoot when she plays in those roles. Adriana Leon as well loves to cut in and shoot, so I'd probably say Lacasse and Deanne Rose.
Now, it's a shame that Becky will not be at this World Cup, but she has shown that she can be a very good pundit, so she will be a very fun person to watch throughout this World Cup. But let's switch the attention a little bit to Cloe Lacasse. Alex, you and I have talked a lot about her. We know how exciting of a player she is. More of an inverted winger, as you and I have talked about a little bit off camera. How do you think she would best be utilized in this front three along with a Jessie Fleming?
Yeah, I think it has to be that inside forward role, right? I think it depends what you want. I think on the left, I think she can use the creativity a bit more. I mean, she's still someone who it's easy to forget. Like, yeah, she scored like 35 goals last year, but she did get 18 assists. She has good creativity. I think when you play her on the left, you get a bit more in that regard. Just 'cause she's left-footed, she can get those cutbacks, get to the line, and still have a shooting threat. So maybe for Canada, if you want a bit more of that, you could put her on the left. But also, if you want to get her scoring threat, we've also seen it for Benfica where she plays on the right. She can be lethal, cutting inside, and that could also be a combination worth experimenting, trying out with because. On that right side, for example, if Jade Riviere starting, Jade Riviere provides a lot of natural wide threat and width. And you could be like, okay, maybe this frees Riviere to come into that right channel and allow Lacasse to drift inside a bit. Whereas, on that left side, sometimes Ashley Lawrence, she gets forward a lot, but also, they almost sometimes tell her to drop back a bit and focus on defense first. So on that left side, you almost want a bit more of a natural wide threat, whereas Riviere's kind of got that license to go forward on the right. So maybe Lacasse on the right could be a partnership worth exploring and experimenting with.
Now let's move on to the midfield. There's probably two spots as we talk about, well, maybe only one spot. We talk about Jessie Fleming taking maybe that 10 role going into the double pivot if that's the idea that Bev Priestman wants to go with. I'm assuming Grosso is kind of a lock there, and it's going to be who's going to play alongside her. You have Quinn and you have Schmidt. Which one are you going with and why?
It has to be Quinn. I think it's just for Canada, one of the big issues they've had over the last year and a half is just they've struggled to deal with the high press of teams. And I think because of that, that's something that some sides might hone in on. Australia is very good at pressing high up the field. I'm sure Nigeria as well could consider being a bit more aggressive in their press. And I think because of that, Quinn just offers the most ball playing ability, can play between the lines, can drop deep into pockets, is so comfortable on the turn. And I think Canada's going to need that for Jessie Fleming and Julia Grosso, because I think we saw that during She Believes in particular. Quinn was out injured or only played like 10 minutes. They're coming off an injury. And it meant a lot for Grosso and Fleming. They spent so much time dropping deep. And that just took away a lot from what they're good at, which is, playing higher up the field, progressing. So I think Quinn has to be the one. And I think from there, I think naturally we've seen Julia Grosso kind of play in the double pivot with the six. I'd like to see Canada play a 6-2-8 formation, and we'll see if Priestman plays that. But if Priestman does go for that double pivot, Quinn alongside Grosso, I think would probably be the best combination, freeing up Fleming to be the 10. And hey, maybe with Quinn's defensive responsibility, there could be a scenario where Grosso has a little bit more freedom off the ball. She just has to come back on it to support Quinn.
Now, this next topic is one I know you're passionate about. It's playing a back three / back four and the fullback roles. So in my opinion, I kind of have a feeling that Bev is going to go in a back four, and I could really see Lawrence as the right back and Chapman as a left back. I know that's not what you would do, and I know a lot of starting 11s that I'm seeing has Lawrence over to at left back and Riviere at right back. I know you want to toy with the idea of a back three, so tell the viewers why you think that a back three could be successful, especially getting a more advanced role for Lawrence and Riviere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the big reason why I've wanted a back three is those aforementioned pressing issues. I think with the four, what happens is teams can press Canada in a 4-4-2 and turn it into a 4-2-4, go 1v1 with all of Canada's back four in there with the two midfielders, with Canada playing a double pivot. Then in that 4-4-2, the two midfielders can go 1v1 on each other, and then completely it means opponents are able to go 6v6 versus Canada in the final when they're building up, and it completely nullifies their ability to play out the back. Whereas when you play a three, it kind of messes with those formations. You create a bit more triangles. You can create spaces between the lines. So I think that's been a big issue. And that's the biggest reason why I've been calling for a back three for a while now, as some will know. But also now with no Janine Becky, Canada lacks a true wide threat creator. We kind of touched off the top, right? Like Lacasse can create from wide areas, but she naturally cuts inside to create. She's always going to play as like an inside forward. Adriana Leon's an inside forward. Deanne Rose can also provide width because, she's got the speed too, but she's also naturally someone who likes to tuck inside and score and be a inside forward. Nichelle Prince, if she's playing on the right, she'll provide width and service. But for Canada, she's played more on the left, where she also plays like an inside forward. Basically, all of Canada's wide threats. I think Olivia Smith is the one true out and out winger. You're looking like, okay, she'll want to go out and get out wide. But even she's an inside forward because she loves to score. We've seen her drop goals for fun at the U20 level. Basically, there's a lack of natural width. Someone like a Janine Becky who's going to go out wide and cross and provide service. Ashley Lawrence and Jade Revere can provide that. And I think if you can also find a way to play a back three, and it doesn't have to be a natural back three with 3 center backs, but if you play one of those quasi back threes where, maybe you do something like put Jade Revere on the wing and tuck in, someone who can play in a back three at fullback, like a Gabby Carl, for example, and play Revere on the wing, and then in possession you play Lawrence and Revere as wing backs, and then off the ball you turn it into a 4-2-3-1 that you're familiar with. That could be a way to make up some of the width, because Lawrence's delivery is world class. How many assists have we seen her drop in for Canada from those wide areas? We know Revere could do the same. It could be a way for them to make up for the lack of wide threat with no Becky, especially because Jordan Hoytema, another problem that Canada have had is that Hoytema thrives off wide service, off those sort of wide balls. And sometimes we've seen them play a bit like she's Sinclair and play it to feet all the time, which isn't necessarily her game. She's so good when she's running the channels and getting on the edge of crosses. So if they can find a way to get that wide threat, Hoytema, I think, will also thrive. So it's kind of a win-win on many fronts to tweak with.
I feel like the more likely situation, because I agree with everything you're saying, is I just don't know if Bev's going to give Carl that opportunity. But you and I kind of talked about it a little bit. Maybe when they have possession, they're going forward, you give the fullbacks the ability to go up, and you have Quinn maybe just slide into that back three. You split Buchanan and Gilles, and then you kind of have that coverage. But we're talking about Bev and what she will and won't do. And I think the funny thing is, we're going to build a starting 11 right now. But Alex, I told you to build it beforehand, and I told you to do it kind of in Bev's name. So I know you want to see this potential back three with Carl, but we're talking very realistic, because I think at the end of the day, we probably know that Bev isn't going to go that route. She's comfortable with her back four. So I put you to the test. Show me your predicted starting 11 based on what you think Bev will do.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't hate the Quinn playing as a 6/CB hybrid anyway. So in this scenario, it's possible. But yes, we have Chardon in goal, Riviere, Gilles, Buchanan, Lawrence. I think we kind of touched off that off the top. Feels pretty written in stone. I think Alicia Chapman could slot in at left back for a bit more of a defensive presence, and maybe Chapman could also help form a back three, because she's played that role for Houston before. So maybe watch Chapman in that regard. But we have Lawrence, Riviere for now. Quinn holding it down at the 6. We have Fleming, Grosso likely, based on Priestman's past tactical wrinkles, playing a bit more alongside Quinn, although we could see Fleming and Grosso playing in front of Quinn. And then for the front three, it took a lot of deliberation, especially with Rose's fitness, Prince's fitness, because I think they start if both fully healthy. For now, we have Cloe Lacasse, Adriana Leon as the 2 wingers, and then Jordan Hoytema leading the line.
Now it's time to take a look at our opponents, Alex. Now, I think if you look at the FIFA Women's World standings, you'd see that Nigeria is 40th, Ireland's 22nd, Australia 10th, Canada 7th. But in reality, we watch Canada take on Nigeria. We know they're not a 40th place nation. Tell me a little bit about them and their star player to look out for.
Yeah, Nigeria's the real sleeper team of this group. They were a pot 4 team, which feels like they were the matchup to avoid from that pot, and they're going to be fun to watch from a neutral perspective, because this Nigeria team's fearless. They play on the ball. Canada got a taste of it last year. Head coach Randy Waldrom's been there for a while now. Has been working with them, and they've got talent too. That's the big thing. They're a team that has an identity. They want to play on the ball. They want to, they defend well off it. But then they have one of the best players in this group and one of the best players in this tournament in Asisat Oshawala. She hasn't always been able to play for Nigeria in the past years, but she's here at this World Cup. She's fresh off winning a second Champions League with Barcelona, where she scored a truckload of goals for them. She's arguably the second best player, if not the best player in this group. She's just a dangerous forward, can score in so many ways, is good in the air, is good with their feet. playing in that Barcelona system, you have to be good with their feet. That's going to be a huge threat for the Canadian defenders to deal with. And, good thing for Canada, they have Buchanan and Gilles, and they'll be up for the test. But it's one of those where you blink and you leave Oshawa in your box for a second. She could score with her eyes closed, and she'll definitely be someone to watch out for.
Ireland is definitely no pushovers either. Now, when I did my predicted group finish, I had them finishing in 4th because I just think Nigeria is, like you mentioned, that sleeper team. So tell me a little bit about Ireland. Am I exaggerating? Should I maybe have put them in 3rd, maybe pushing? And who is their star player to look out for?
Ireland's the kind of they're going to be the frustrating team because they're going to play a 5-4-1. They exclusively play in a 5-4-1. It's defend. They don't really care too much for the ball, but they're fine with that, and it's worked to a certain extent. I think they showed that when they played the U.S. in a pair of friendlies earlier this year. They frustrated the heck out of a U.S. team that, usually pretty good at getting goals against those sort of defensive teams. So they're going to be a very committed team, and that's going to be something where for Canada, that's a worry because Canada's struggled against low blocks in the past. The teams who can sit deep and frustrate Canada has proven to be an issue with that, Canada's chance creation, finishing woes. So that's going to be a big worry for Canada. I think Ireland can frustrate anyone in this group with the play, and they've got some talented players too. I think the big one that we have highlighted here is Katie McCabe, and she's a fascinating one. She played for Arsenal. She's been there for a while now, since I think 2015. She's one of the best fullbacks in Europe or even in the world, especially in terms of attacking numbers on FB Ref. Her percentiles are all in the 95th in terms of XG, XA, chance creation. Like, she's very lethal going forward. And then for Ireland, she plays a bit as a midfielder. So they're going to be asking her, okay, we'll take care of the defending. We got our 5-4-1. We're going to take care of a lot of the dirty work, go and create. And she's someone where she's shown for Arsenal, very good team, very high level, that she can create. So she's going to be someone to watch out for, because Nigeria is going to try to hit on the break. And if Canada commit numbers forward, you're not going to want someone like McCabe orchestrating a counterattack with all the names around her.
Now, if you go off the FIFA rankings, you know that Canada's ranked 7th, Australia is ranked 10th. A lot would assume that is going to be Canada's biggest challengers, on top of the fact that they are hosting this World Cup and they have the best player in the world, Sam Kerr. This should be her tournament. This is an opportunity for the best player in the world to come to a World Cup that they're hosting and just show why she is looked upon so highly in this sport. So, Alex, I've been seeing a lot of, again, projected groups. A lot see Australia top in the group, probably, like I mentioned, best player hosting. Do you agree with that? And how dangerous will Kerr be?
I mean, I agree that that's probably the outcome on paper. Certainly, that's the favored, right? It's just the home advantage. Like, the crowds in Australia are going to be stunning too. I mean, they sold out, right? And they're going to be crowds of 80,000, 70,000, 90,000. That's going to be an immense advantage. And this is Australia's kind of been building for this. Like, they've got the most experienced team in this group. They have almost double-digit players who are at over 100 caps. Like, they've built up this core of players. They've got some fascinating young players as well. Like, Mary Fowler of Man City's just 20, and she already has double-digit goals for Australia. Ellie Carpenter's already won a couple Champions Leagues with Lyon at the back. But yeah, this is Sam Kerr's team. She wears the armband. She's just a phenomenal striker. One of the best to watch as well. Like, she's just such a fun striker. She can score at their left, score at their right, score with their head. She'll chip you in a cup final like she's done for Chelsea before. Like, she's just got this magic about her. So the fact that this Australian team's been building, they've never made it past a quarterfinal, and the fact that they're at home, this is really a chance for them to make a run. Especially, you look across the world with all the injuries and some of the troubles. A lot of the big heavy hitters where you'd maybe expect them to be favorites, it's hard to kind of peg them. So yeah, Australia, this is something where I'm looking at them like, why not make a run to the semifinals? And to do that, there's no better way to start than by winning your group, a group with the Olympic champions, having someone like Sam Kerr rip a couple goals and show that why she is definitely the best striker in the world. It feels like, let alone one of the best players. And that's why this Australia team for Canada, it's going to be a heck of a test. We saw how they handled it last time out. We'll be interested to see how they stop Sam Kerr. Funnily enough, Jade Rose ended up being the Sam Kerr stopper, and she's not in this Canada squad. So might we see someone else step up and fill that role? But it's going to be a heck of a test for Canada.
Now, we've highlighted a player for each nation in the group. Now it's time to do one for Canada. Alex, who is the one player that could be the X factor for this Canadian team at the World Cup?
Well, that's the tough question. I think it's one where we genuinely it's a good debate about who it could be, because I think it feels like it's really become Jessie Fleming's team over the last 2 years, really since the Olympics, and she, stepped up as the penalty taker. And since then, for club and country, she's really just started to drive play a lot. So I think you could argue it's Jessie Fleming, certainly in terms of importance. But then how could you argue against Kadisha Buchanan, right? Just 5 times Champions League winner. When she's back there, just you feel so confident. It feels like Canada's never going to concede. And, her and Gilles, that partnership they have, Buchanan's going to be immense. And like, this is something where she's thrived at World Cups before. 2015, best young player, made the best 11. 2019, scored Canada's opening goal, was excellent. Canada's problems were not defensively that tournament. So I could argue Buchanan, but if not as well, this could be the tournament of Ashley Lawrence, just getting that wide threat up, that fresh off that move from Chelsea. It's just allowing her to completely be free. You can make an argument for all three. So if I were to pick, I'd actually probably go Buchanan, but I'd say it's pretty close in terms of importance between her and Fleming. But I'm curious to know who you'd pick. I'd say Buchanan by a bit, but you might have something different.
I'm going to go with Jessie Fleming. I mean, she's from London. I'm somewhere from London. I've been following her career for a long time. I think the opportunity to step up in her role a little bit more advanced will just open up her creativity. She's going to be the focal point for me. But you touched on her a lot, and we've touched on her a lot in this episode. So I'm going to throw a wild card one for you that I think you're going to like, and it's going to be Vanessa Gilles. Now, Vanessa Gilles is an absolute rock at the back. She's so good in the air. And the fun thing about her is she's also dangerous in the box. This Canadian side has struggled to score goals. If we can get the odd set piece, a corner, something right, she's so deadly in the box. We've seen it with her time at Angel City FC. We've seen it in her time now in France. She's obviously got that role at Lyon to replace Kadisha Buchanan. I think that she's had big tournaments in the past, and I think she could be up for a big one again. So to answer the question, I mean, I am going to go with Jessie Fleming, but I do think Gilles could have a massive performance. So Alex, that is all the time we have for on this episode. I really hope you guys all enjoyed it. And if you did, as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you guys soon. Cheers, friends.